Talk of the Town is up and running in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, USA. I'm Scott Montesano, and this is where the Chippewa Valley comes to talk. A hello to all of you out there on this Cinco de Mayo, which we'll talk about in a moment. We got plenty, as always, to get to. I know I say that every show, and I think it's a good way for us to begin every show. Got plenty to get to. Before that, don't forget to follow and subscribe to Eau Claire Hometown Media on iHeart and Spotify. It's the best way for you to get all of our great shows. I know I say this periodically throughout the course of the year, but a reminder that we're more than just Talk of the Town. Or the same thing as with some of the other shows we have. We are much more than whatever that show is. You are missing out on so much if you're not getting to more than a couple of our shows. If you're only listening to one show, that's fine. But that's like going to a great restaurant and only ordering the same thing every single time. You love that dish, and that may ultimately be your favorite dish at the restaurant. But perhaps there are other things. Since you already like the flavor that is being served up in one dish, you likely like something else as well, and maybe you add that in to the rotation. It gives you more reason to go more often to the restaurant. So make sure you're liking all of the shows that we have. And by the way, I know many of you saw it on Facebook, maybe saw it on my LinkedIn as well. But May is our birthday month. May is our birthday month. We started in May of 2019 with Talk of the Town. And then we had interviews, and Talk of the Town in its early days was a big interview show, and it was the show on this platform, and we got things up and running with some news articles and some this and some that, and then really pivoted, though it was somewhat of a planned pivot, and then some other aspects that we weren't planning on. We pivoted midway through 2020, and the summer of 2020, so a little more than a little bit after our 1-year anniversary. We then started to bring on other podcasts and became the Eau Claire Hometown Media that you really know. But regard of all that, the point I'm pointing out, though, is we started in May of 2019, and April, just a couple of days ago, our top month ever. Top month ever. Most website visits, the highest average for our shows, the most listens across all of our shows, most hours listened to with our shows. Just great numbers across the board. Some of our shows had bongo numbers. I know for a lot of our partners, news has gone out today as to the various growth that their show had. Some shows had 20% leaps in average last month. And people are saying, Scott, how's it happening? How's it happening? Well, of course, Scott Montesano is behind it. People are going to follow Scott Montesano. But in reality, it's the local content. People want local content, whether they agree with what's being said, whether they don't agree with what's being said, whether they're interested in a particular topic. It's kind of weird. People sometimes just want to hear something local, and, hey, am I interested in this or not? I think that's great. We've become so fragmented at times where we only go to what we already know we like. And I think you're seeing a pivot back in a good way in society where people are like, you know what? This particular show at Eau Claire Hometown Media is interviewing this guest about this topic. Well, I don't hate that topic. I'm not necessarily in love with the topic, but I don't hate the topic, so let me give it a shot. And then you expand out your interest. And when it's over, you may have enjoyed it or not, and you're able to have stronger feelings about it. So local content is king. This weekend was at the Eau Claire Marathon Expo We'll talk about that here in just a moment. Did want to point this out, too. This weekend I went to Insomnia Cookie on Water Street. Went there Saturday evening, so about 7 o'clock. It was after the Derby. And went there. You go to Insomnia Cookie. I like Insomnia Cookie. Got a Cookie Witch. Get to pick 2 cookies and ice cream that goes in between. Love it. Love it. Reminds me of it was a small franchise. They had one down in St. Louis when I was down there called the Baked Bear, where you pick cookies and make your own cookie sandwich. But Insomnia Cookie does that on Water Street. It takes a long time to go because they're always understaffed when I go there. I felt horrible for the staff person because it was one young lady. It's Saturday night at 7. It's not overly busy, but you could tell she was worn down. And we didn't complain at all. Getting 2 cookies and ice cream shouldn't take you 10 minutes, but it took us 10 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes. But we were okay with it because it's a happy purchase. You feel good. We weren't in a rush or anything. You go for a treat like that, you're willing to wait a little bit. When you go to some slop that you're interested in but you're not interested in, that's when the wait annoys you. But something like this, it's a treat. It was the Derby on Saturday, the Kentucky Derby. Not a big deal around here. I know it's not a big deal around here. There hasn't been horse racing in this part of the country in decades, if not centuries. There's no history. I know some people maybe go over to Canterbury Downs, but even there, it's not a huge culture of horse racing in the upper Midwest, very much where I'm from in New York. When I lived down in Iowa, a culture of horse racing in the Des Moines area, but not really big around here, but huge for me, family. We love the Derby. Great race, even though many of you not interested in it, judging by the ratings, still fantastically interesting to most of the country. And it brings me to Saturday, because Saturday, myself and other members of Eau Claire Hometown Media were at the Eau Claire Marathon Expo at the Sod and Tag Center. And a reminder, if you were there on Saturday or not, without the field house at the Sod and Tag Center, without that field house, could they do an expo like they did? Yeah, you'd be really hard-pressed to find a good spot to hold it, though, in this area. The space that's afforded, it never feels crowded. Second year I've been to that expo. First year we've had a table that was set up. And it was a fun time at the expo. Saw some of you that came out. It was great. Even signed a few autographs for people. I felt important while I was there. And we had a great booth because it was just a booth with our table skirt on it and a putting green because we had nothing to sell. We weren't selling anything. We weren't selling nutritional products. We weren't selling sneakers. We weren't trying to sell gutters or windows or anything like that. We didn't have shirts. We weren't selling anything. We weren't showcasing property or anything like that. We're podcasts. So we were out there just for the fun of it, and we had a putting green, and it was great. Kids would come over and putt. A lot of fun for that. Was telling people around me, I was like, hey, I'm going to duck out early because it's the Derby, and people on Saturday were like, what Derby? I was like, the Kentucky Derby. So, as I said, it's not necessarily something that people in this part of the country are uberly fired up about. But when we speak of the marathon, and I'm going to get to the Eau Claire School District and their decision on Monday night in a second, let's talk about the marathon for a moment. Because I didn't really plan on talking about the marathon all that much. It came and went this weekend. The expo was fantastic. They continue to get bigger and bigger, multiple events. It's become one of the big events in this community. It's a huge deal at this time of the year. And if you're at the expo, you really get a feel for that. All the participation. It's such a low bar of entry to take part in this, whether as a spectator, as a volunteer, or even as a runner. It's a low bar to be a part of this event. Unlike some of the other events, let's say Country Jam, you can be a staff member / volunteer in some cases. You can be a patron of Country Jam, but you can't really be a performer. That's a very small window. Here, everything's available for you with the marathon, which makes it unique. And our area has a very robust, I love that term today, robust running event, which is really cool. That's not necessarily something that is afforded to a lot of areas. But we weren't going to talk too much about it because it came and it went and was a success. But I saw a post last night, and then I got a few emails today. But I saw a post online yesterday, and it wasn't from a local person I follow, but you know the Facebook algorithms, which are meant to generate rage bait for you. And I saw a person complain that it was augmented by emails today. A person from the north side of Eau Claire complaining about how inconvenient the marathon is and pretty much how stupid it is and the stupid runners and the stupid organizers and this thing is all stupid and why should we be inconvenient so you can try to run? I mean, somebody was really going up and in. It's a NIMBY alert for certain sticks in the mud. I get it. These aren't new complaints. Especially early on in the marathon stage, you can kind of understand it more because it wasn't established. But now it's been going on for some 15 years. People complain about the inconvenience of the marathon, especially people on the north side, where it runs right through communities and it does block off certain routes. Oddly enough, the most impacted is arguably the 3rd Ward area, but that area has really embraced the marathon. The inconvenience is real. There is no other way around it. Roads are closed off. Certain access points are closed off. But it's a Sunday morning when there's not a lot of traffic on the road. Things tend to be cleaned up and wide open again by early afternoon. If you're downtown that Sunday night, you'd have no idea that a marathon took place. But the inconvenience is real. People feel locked in. There's strangers on their lawns. It's a change of routine, which is really big. And if it's not something that you are into or see any benefit from, it annoys you. I can understand that. The problem is, for those that want to complain and try to make a big deal, and I know there's been an effort from some people to try to reach out to the media, and why doesn't the media really question the local authorities about this? This is stupid. I think one person was even angling that there's a legal precedent for this shouldn't happen because of the safety aspect and how can first responders get to certain parts of the area when they're blocked off by runners, forgetting the fact that this thing has been planned out to a T with the help of first responder units, regardless. The problem is this event has gone on for years. And if you're one of the people that want to bitch and moan, you know when it is. This doesn't surprise you. They'll tell you right now the exact date when it's going to run next year. And quite frankly, they can probably give you the dates the next 2 to 3 years out. If you are able, I say the same thing for those that would always bitch about fireworks at Carson Park. These aren't a shocker to you. You know when this is. This didn't just pop up 2 days ago. You know when it is. Schedule your life around it. It's not a shock. I'm reminded last year, about this time last year, one of our neighbors near the Montesano mansion was planning a big wedding for their daughter. In their yard, they knew they were going to use up a lot of parking in the neighborhood and all that, and the guy went door to door, gave everybody a 1-month notice. Hey, on this Saturday, it might get really busy. You had a month lead up to know. Plan ahead. and nobody ultimately complained, and it really ended up not being that big of a deal. If he had just done it, if they had just done it, and they had blocked some roads or whatever, then maybe people would have been more annoyed. But you had lead-up time. This, you have ample lead-up time. You know it's happening. It has been well planned out. This isn't the first year they've done it. If you are able, schedule your life around it. If you have the means, maybe spend the day somewhere else. It's not a shock. And you know what? I've said this about other things. When you live in a community, and I think too many of us forget this, when they want to bitch and moan about stuff that are happening. Remember, yes, we have a business relationship with the marathon, but not to go too deep into it. It's a very small amount of money. If I really didn't like the marathon or something bad that happened, I would spout off about it here. All right? As it is, it's a great event for the community. Had a great time at the expo. I'm not a huge runner. I didn't know anybody, as far as I know, that participated in the actual marathon this year, though I've known people in previous years. But I love it for the community. We forget in this town, and really society as a whole, that some things aren't made especially for you. And living in a community means you sometimes have to be okay with other people being happy and letting them do what they want to do, as long as it doesn't really hurt you. And it's not hurting you. It's inconvenient. It's an inconvenience on a Sunday morning when many of you are sitting on your asses anyway. Living in a community means you acquiesce sometimes to the joy of your neighbors. That's a community. Not everything is catered especially to you. What benefits the greater good? And with that in mind, what is something you want? Instead of bitching about other people being happy, what's something you want? And don't come back with, well, I want the marathon canceled. No. We're not playing that game. What's something you want? What's an event you'd like? What are some roadblocks maybe you've had to an event that you want that maybe we do have to take a second look at? And perhaps there's something that you like to do, that you love, that you yourself have overlooked how it inconveniences others. Show me a documented case, by the way, and you can't do it. Show me a documented case, because people email and they post out. Oh, again, a few runners, by the way, it's thousands, a few runners, just so they can run a race on the road, are putting lives in danger, because how could first responders get somewhere? And then you get people that are Uber drivers and whatnot saying, yeah, can't get anywhere, and I was supposed to deliver medicine to somebody. Show me a documented case where someone's life was put in danger or even lost because first responders couldn't get somewhere during the Eau Claire Marathon. You can't do it. This has been thought out, planned out, and fine-tuned over the course of 10, 15 years. It is okay if you do not like the marathon. You don't run it. You don't want to it's literally in your front lawn, but you don't want to go out and watch it. It annoys you. You hate Marathon Sunday. It's okay to not enjoy it. It's okay. It's not for you. That's fine. But bitching and moaning and wanting it canceled and sending emails and being a keyboard warrior online for something that is beloved by this community and does do an economic benefit, sit this one out. As I said, being a part of a community means You want everybody to be happy, and not every single thing in life is going to be catered especially to you. You know when this is going to be. Plan your life around it. Do something you want to do on that Sunday. Or you know what? You know what other people have done, especially in the third ward? They've leaned into it. You know what? Grab a couple of lawn chairs, go sit on your front lawn. Watch the people run by. You might enjoy it. Have some friends over. Have them spend the night and wake up in the morning and go out there. Or, and I leave you with this, with all the complaints. If you have a complaint that you really think it's inconveniencing you, what are some small things you would like? You go, hey, you know what? If you go with actual questions, you might get good answers. Something might get tweaked. The marathon in 2026 is not the way the marathon was 10 years ago. Just the amount of complaining people have. Now, moving on, speaking of complaining, we knew this was coming. We talked about it with the Chippewa Falls School District last week. The Eau Claire School District got its opportunity on Monday. And you can pretty much go back to Thursday's show and what I said about the Chippewa Falls School District and pull some of it over for this. So the Eau Claire School District, the board voting on Monday night that they are going to be cutting staff. Significant deficit they're facing, some $10 million deficit. So they're not going to be renewing some contracts. They're going to be cutting back hours. A lot of the teacher adjacent positions are being impacted. Things like band, art, teacher assistants, those various positions are being impacted. People, smart business people too, in this community, are pounding the table, upset that educators are being cut. And you know what? It sucks. One kid came out there, and I went back and watched and mentioned how, through the teaching of this band teacher, he got these various benefits, and he got these awards that the board itself commended him on. These things would not have happened without this teacher, who is now likely to lose their job, or at least lose significant hours and thus have their pay significantly cut. Many of these educators have been commended. This has nothing to do with the job that they're doing. There's a true benefit. It does suck. But folks, money is money. You know what people want? You're facing a $10 million deficit. It's a real deficit. That's real. People want faceless, nameless, sometimes even non-existent administration cut. It's always as I've gotten older and older, I've started to realize there is a legitimacy to the come in and trim the fat off of any type of operation. That was the big thing of Doge. Remember? The chainsaw and all that. And there is some reality to that too. You can work lean. But at one point, once you're lean, you can't keep letting faceless, nameless, and sometimes in more and more non-existent positions be cut. People want people that they don't know cut. They got too many people there. Sometimes that's not true. Also, they want to know why the schools can't figure this out like any other business. On regular business, you balance the budget. You don't spend what you don't have, so you don't fall into deficits, all right? And people want to know, hey, I voted for referendums. I voted for these operational referendums, and it doesn't seem to be fixing anything. All right. One of the board members, Joshua DeMent, said it perfectly. They put it in QOW's story, by the way. He said it best. This is a state issue. The board members are basically the messengers on this. This is a state issue. all right? And you can do the research yourself. They're locked in to what monies they can have. So they have to make cuts. You want them to make cuts. You can't keep operating with money you don't have. So, folks, when it comes to cuts, I give everybody what I like to call the NCAA tournament analogy. You hear this a lot in college basketball. 68 teams make it into the college basketball tournament. A couple years from now, there's going to be even more, apparently, but 68 teams make it into the NCAA basketball tournament. All right? And there's always people complaining, well, this team didn't get in, that team didn't get, this team deserved to get in, and that. All right. You can put this other team in, but who gets bumped out? You can't bring somebody in without pushing somebody else out. So, folks, in this case, you need to make cuts. All right, you don't want the band guy cut. That's fine. You've made a good point. Who do you think we should cut? And then people always back up and go, well, I'm not saying cut anybody. We have to. You have to. Because if you keep bringing up a deficit, then a lot of the same people will be back a year later saying, how dare you put us even more in a debt, spending money you don't have. So cuts have to happen. You don't want to make one cut, where are you going to? And I know a lot of you will say, well, the administration building. All right. It's a lot leaner than you think it is now. Okay? I'm sure we can all, you and I together, we can find somebody that could still get cut in the administration building, but that's still not going to fix everything. Also, in terms of run it like a business, which I am as guilty of saying as others, they don't have the mechanisms to raise revenue. Public schools don't have the same mechanisms. They can't raise the price of the hamburger. They can't raise the price of the clothing. Could they sell some advertising in school buildings, sell some advertising a little bit, but it's not even like the city. When I've been pushing for them to sell the naming rights to Hobbs and what have you. You don't quite have that same mechanism in place here. And in terms of the referendums, you know what? You're smart. We've said this before. You're smart. These are Band-Aids. They are clearly Band-Aids, and the rubber has hit the road on this. I'm not going to lie. I think I'm done with referendums, but the problem is the issue is a state issue. And I remind you all, if you're sitting there going, oh, of course Scott's defending the schools, they're woke SOB. I am far from some woke liberal who would take a bullet for public education. But I will say this. I think a robust public education system augmented by private options, which includes the parochials, is the best. Remember, public education and the parochials and some of the longer-standing privates have been molded, adjusted, revised with the times over decades. I know there's this run to get the kids into the private schools. The privates have their place, but they are a feel-good short-term measure for many, and their viability and what they'll ultimately offer is a work in progress. And that's not a knock on them. It's going to take generations. They can in many ways, they can match what goes on in the classroom. But it's hard for them right now to duplicate the total education that ultimately is the functionality and the purpose of the established public and parochials. Not only the co-curriculars, but the various clubs, the electives, other opportunities. And while some of that with the privates can be offset with partnerships, it's not structurally sound. Now, it goes down a whole other path of societal stuff because there are more and more people coming up that don't even have their kids involved in things. They've done everything they can to keep their kids not being involved in activities, but that's a whole other thing for another day. The privates have their purpose, but they are not right now something that should be viewed as a total alternative to the public schools. They should be viewed as an augmentation for us, for a niche group. That's not a knock again. It's not a knock. All right? The privates also, I say this in this town, in Eau Claire in particular, one of the biggest things you hear is facilities. And the Eau Claire School District is hurting on facilities. There's a lot of districts in this region right here that are really struggling on facilities. And the privates don't fix that here. The privates are in old school buildings. They're in repurposed buildings. They're in cheaply built buildings because they have to build them on the cheap because they're a private business and they need to make the revenue and then over time hopefully add on to them and what have you. Why I say all this is there are too many state representatives who, whether outwardly, and sometimes they say it outwardly, or they're passively, meaning that either they agree with it and don't say it out loud, or they don't necessarily agree with it, but they don't have the stones to fight it. There are too many state representatives who kind of want the public schools to die. They want to put pressure on them. They want to punish the public schools because of how woke they are. What? That's not. You clearly have no idea what's going on in public schools if you're gonna talk about kitty litter in the school and gay pride flags. There's this false notion of rampant wokeism in the schools. You don't know shit. Oh yes. Now I know some of you are thinking, oh, you have issues like Madison and Sun Prairie last week. What a joke that is. That is a joke. That the teachers walked out in Madison and Sun Prairie for protesting the way they did. Not their place, not their time. They had a job to do, and they let down their students, and they let down their community. And you can feel passionate like they did, but I do not like the idea of these walkouts in public schools. But that's another argument for another day. You did not see that here. You didn't have to close the schools here because of it. But the actions of Madison and Sun Prairie and other school districts, which are their own issues, and those communities can handle those issues the way that they see fit, because every community is different. But don't punish Eau Claire, Altoona, Elk Mound, Chippewa Falls because of the actions of another community. And don't lump them all in together. You're going to try to tell me that pick one of the rural communities in this area, that its public school is really woke and liberal? Come on. The issue is a state issue. But I tell everybody, you can bitch and moan about what the school board did on Monday. And is the Eau Claire School Board perfect? Oh, God, we all know that's not the case. But your anger, your vitriol, your complaints now need to start going to state representatives who many times have operated in anonymity. They've operated in sort of anonymity. We care about really local, a little bit with the state government, with the governor's race, and then the federal. Get on your representatives. Because the answer, the solution to this is not just school choice. It is not. That is not the answer to this. If that's what they view, it's going to take generations for it to play out. And are you willing for generations of kids to have to serve, generations of kids and families to serve as the guinea pigs? It's pointless. What you want is a robust public education system, which then, for those that it does not fit, but it serves a big need, all right, you know what? I like the public school, but I'm going to go to parochial because I want more of the religious side of things and the well-run parochials. And if you say, I don't like public school, but I don't want to have the religious angle to it, though a lot of the privates do, I want to go to this private school. I've heard good things about this. It's okay to have alternatives. You want alternatives, but they're all built on the backbone of a good public education system. All right, back with you on Thursday. On behalf of everyone who made the podcast possible, I'm Scott Montesano saying there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. Make sure to take advantage of it. And until next time.